What's going on, Star Wars friends and fans? I'm Star Wars Only, and today we are, of course, talking about a lot of interesting news that's kind of going around the fandom. Of course, the big one is the rumor that the Kenobi series has been canceled. Another thing that has come out recently is the Colin Trevorrow Episode 9 script that we'll talk about a little bit. I know people have asked me for a video covering that topic, and that will come. It's just there's a lot to cover in that, so I'm writing the script for it and getting all that ready for the probably days to come. Hopefully have it out tomorrow. And we are joined with my good friend Darth Daddy Lunga of the Grey Council. He's one of the few rational people, in my opinion, in the Star Wars fandom, one of the few that are left, at least, because we've all seemed to have lost our minds. How are you doing, Daddy?
I am doing okay. I just saw this thing pop in the Gray Order Discord, and people started talking about it, and I was like, "Damn, what the fuck is going on now?"
Yeah, that's everybody's reactions. You hear about it, you're like, "What the fuck? What Kenobi series not happening? What the fuck?" It was just announced not that long ago either. I think August of 2019 is when they announced it. And
Yeah.
I don't like to pull on the whole I have sources card, but I literally had a conversation with one of my sources a few days ago, and he's the one who's kind of told me about the episode 9 stuff. He was right about the Han Solo being in there. He was right about the Palpatine parts and everything. And so I trust the guy and know he's involved with production. And he even said, yeah, Kenobi's show starting in summer. That's when we start production. I was like, awesome. It's going to be great. And then this comes out of nowhere of, hey, there may not be a Kenobi show. So the story behind this, for everybody to be kind of more informed, is that I would say there are about 3 to 4 separate journalists, people involved with the industry, the film industry, who are saying, not even saying, but basically going around trying to confirm that the Kenobi series is being canceled. And I don't know. It's one of those things where if you get information from one source, you want to confirm it with another, or you hear something from one guy's source, you want to confirm it with yours. And it seems like the journalists are kind of scrambling around trying to figure out, is this really canceled or is this not? And word on the street right now is that, the show might not be happening. And like I just said, I know that it's supposed to start production this summer, likely meaning it would come out in late 2021. And so it seems kind of pretty crazy that they would cancel production and cancel the show. But to be fair, we also know this specific project has had problems for the past 4 years. I mean, they've been trying to get it going for 4 years. Stephen Daldry was supposed to be the original director for it as a film, and then it turned into a show. Now the question would be, what went wrong if it truly did go wrong? So I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about it not happening. Lunga, what are your thoughts?
Well, A, it's early. B,
Yeah.
I mean, it would for me to for this to happen, it had to be something pretty catastrophic because Disney announced they're doing it. Ewan McGregor finally says, after 4 years, I can talk about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think there was just too much hoopla for this to just suddenly say, nah, we're not doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, it had to be something catastrophic. Like, let's say, I mean, they announced Deborah Chow's the one doing it, and it's all this, big deal. Like, let's say McGregor, there was some differences for whatever reasons, like conflicts or something, you know what I mean? But the way McGregor is, he seems to really get along with Disney. So I don't see a conflict happening either, with Disney.
Yeah.
As far as doing this.
That's what's crazy about it, is that he's an executive producer of this as well.
Yeah.
And one of the caveats to him joining, one of the reports was saying, and this is from Fantatrax, which is there's not a more credible source out there. I mean, I know who they're in the cahoots with, and you'd be surprised. It's the creme de la creme. They even said that one of the big caveats to Ewan McGregor coming back is that he would be directing a few of the episodes. So you're right. It'd have to be something catastrophic of why this wouldn't be happening. And if it does fall through, I would say it's a executive at Disney problem, and it would be because the script's already written. I mean, that's already said and done. The story's done. It has to be something between 3 people: Kathleen Kennedy, Deborah Chow, Ewan McGregor. That's where I feel like the problems would lie. What those problems are, though, God only knows.
I mean, here's the thing: we don't. I mean, let's be fair. All this is, I mean, this is basically based off of a GIF posted by Mike Ryan. Okay, he said nothing. It's just a GIF. There's nothing else. Okay, and it got picked up on Reddit, and everyone's talking about it on Reddit, and it's still just a GIF. Now, someone did link. We talked about this before the show started. Linked parody account, which is where it could have started.
Yeah.
Now again, we really don't know yet, but I just think there's just like, other than this stuff, I'm not seeing anything yet either. Now, let's just assume it's true. Okay. If we're assuming it's true, that doesn't necessarily mean they're done. They don't want to do Kenobi or something. It could literally mean, like, originally it was supposed to be a movie, like we said. It could literally mean they decided, well, let's make it a movie. I mean, that could easily be happening too. You know what I mean? So it may not be the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It could just be a change, or maybe they're pushing it back, or maybe, maybe there's other things.
They could postpone it or something. Yeah, it couldn't be. It may not be as fatal as we all make it out to be. One of the other people who picked it up, it's called Star Wars Stuff on Twitter. I know they have a few credible sources, and they had said that rumors are circulating that Kenobi Plus series is no longer happening on Disney Plus, and of course, people were making the counter argument that you were making as well of, is it just a parody account? Because that's where I kind of was like, oh shit, all right, maybe it's just not as bad. And they said this isn't a reference to any fake accounts. I'm sure we'll get some confirmation soon, but right now they're only rumors. And that's kind of how you have to approach these things, where it is a little bit of only a rumor, where you have to get proper confirmation. Jeremy Conrad, he's another pretty credible source with a lot of Marvel stuff, I believe, more than anything. He's also saying that it seems like bad news is coming, but people are kind of scrambling for confirmation on it. So we have to wait. I would reach out to my guys and be like, hey, do you know anything about it? But I know what their limits are, and it's definitely not the executive deciding level. It's just production stuff. And so I don't think I could get anywhere with my so-called sources. And it's just one of those things you have to take it a little bit with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, history is not kind to Star Wars right now when it comes to these
Unfortunately
productions.
not.
Yeah. and I have to say, this would be, out of everything, I'm not even, when they announced it, I was happy, not for myself, but more for the Star Wars fans. As you know, I grew up with the prequels. I love Ewan McGregor as an actor. I think he was great as Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the story of Obi-Wan's done. I don't need it to be continued in order to be happy. And so the idea that him coming back wasn't something that I was like, oh yes, this is so amazing, this has to happen. I was just happy with it. But now that what we're hearing that it could possibly be canceled, it's one of those things where it's like, geez, something's got to change on the production side behind the scenes, because if this gets canceled, if this gets canned simply because of something that happens with Kathleen Kennedy's decision in the producing realm, or Deborah Chow didn't get the creative control that she wanted to, or something like that, something has to change in Lucasfilm. And there's going to be a big group of prequel fans, not even Fandom Menace people, but just prequel fans in general, who say, I'm done. Bro, you fucked up the one thing that we've all wanted for years, and that's Ewan McGregor reprising his role. Because that's the big thing about this show happening, is that it's not a story necessity. You don't need to continue the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got the story, but it's one of those things where it's simply a fan service,
pure fan
show.
service.
Yeah, and if you're not going to do it, then it's like, well, don't announce it. Don't say you're going to do it, not do it. And so it's I'm of course, holding judgment a little bit, because, like you said, we don't have any confirmation on this yet. These are just rumors, but I wouldn't say take it with a grain of salt. I would say take it lightly, but be very cautious with it too, because I don't know, man. This and
this is right after all those rumors about Jar Jar being on there and stuff. I mean,
yeah,
we just got rumors of casting, or not casting, but characters and who are going to be on the show, and now suddenly it's this. Something's not jiving. Something's just not. There's there might be a nugget of truth with something going on, but I just have a feeling that it's not as dire as they're trying to make it sound, which is why I think it's irresponsible when they're putting up those kind of GIFs if you're a journalist.
That's true, and that's one thing that I try to avoid personally, and I know you do the same. Of you don't want to be negative, you don't want to be clickbaity, you don't want to just say something's happening just because it's easy to break the news or something like that. There's a lot of fake websites out there. One of them's a big one is wegotThiscovered.com. They always come out with they come out with stuff every other day, and it really annoys me when other YouTubers who cover Star Wars, they put out articles about them and say, oh, well, take this with a grain of salt, but here's what this website's saying. Well, you're offering validity to that source and to that website. And so it's one of those things we really have to be careful in this modern day of technology and information to not get into a fake news cycle like this, where we talk about the Kenobi show being canceled and it doesn't end up being canceled. And so we do have to say it's a rumor, but it's a scary one. And I think because of the history of the production problems, I mean, I hate saying it, but literally every single Star Wars film has had production problems. Force Awakens was supposed to come out in May 2015, came out in December because of script rewrites. And then we got Rogue One, which was saved by Tony Gilroy in the post-production editing because the film just was a disaster, apparently, in the final cut. Then we got to, what was it, The Last Jedi? That was delayed 8 months for script rewrites, supposed to come out in May of 2017, came out in December 2017. Solo, we all know about that one. The switch directors halfway through. Then we got to Rise of Skywalker, and that one had a director delay off 2 years before the film was supposed to come out. It's supposed to come out in May of 2019, came out December 2019. And even most recently with the show, you had the Cassian Andor show. That was originally supposed to go into production a lot sooner, and that one was delayed because of something happened behind the scenes. I can't remember entirely, but Tony Gilroy yet again comes in and saves that kind of story arc with the Cassian Andor show. And so it just seems like this was the only one so far, other than The Mandalorian, because Mandalorian had perfect production and planning. This seemed to be the one that actually was being planned properly. You had the script written a year ahead before the show even started. You had the director set up before you even start production. You have everything lined up. Everything's running smoothly. What could possibly go wrong? And that's where the question lies of what you were saying of it has to be something major. It has to be something catastrophic where Ewan McGregor comes out and says, you know, they wanted Obi-Wan to be a transgender woman and had to change my lightsaber to pink or something like that. Like something had to be that drastic. Maybe he found out Jar Jar was coming back and he was like, no,
that's what did it.
Yeah, he's like, I can't do it. I'm gone. I've done my duty. I did the prequels. You're not going to bring me back into that shit. Maybe it's all Jar Jar's fault.
It's all Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah, Darth Jar Jar. Maybe that's what it was. They were like, I want the Darth Jar Jar storyline, and Ewan was like, that's not going to make any sense. And no, that's all bullshit.
Right.
So it's scary, man.
Even that's hard because it's like, I mean, I guess they could throw stuff last minute, but I mean, obviously they've been talking about it for a long time, and I'm pretty sure that obviously means the moment they had a script, he had it in his hands. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he knew. I mean, it's not like, I'm pretty sure he knew everything that was going, unless, like I said, there was a last minute course correction or change that he didn't agree with. But it's just, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, we know Disney has been pretty stupid. Okay, we know they've been pretty stupid with a lot of stuff, and they've been doing pretty good with some course correction here and there. I just don't see them making this big of a blunder. You know what I mean? To cause that. I mean, to me, it almost seems like if it could possibly be something that was like it's out of everyone's control kind of deal. You know what I mean? Not like this major, conflict between certain people or whatever. I think, I'm starting to wonder if it really means they're like, oh, let's make a movie instead. That's like my first thought. I mean, I could possibly be completely wrong, but that's like the first thought that keeps coming to my head.
Yeah, the news could be, hey, we're not doing the Kenobi Disney Plus series, and it's like, oh shit, well, it's canceled. And they're like, you're right, it is canceled. We're actually going to make a trilogy of Kenobi films or something like that. And it's like, holy fuck, all right, that may be a little too much, but I'll take it. And so you're right, it may be just a film because that was the original plan. And to be fair, I feel like in terms of, I always like getting into the nitty gritty production and money making aspects, but I feel like that would make more money in the long run is to turn it into an actual film and make it where it's something profitable, because you're not going to make a lot of money off of Disney Plus other than the subscriptions that people give you. So if you do a movie, you put $150 million into it for something like this, it's probably going to be 200 million, maybe 250. I feel like it'd be a smaller budget just because it's, Kenobi.
Yeah, I don't see it costing a ton of money.
Yeah, no, and especially with it being more kind of like a Joker film in a way where it's a drama about a character. It could cost a lot less of money. There's a hype around it for fans and demand at the moment for it as well. If you turn it into a film, I feel like you'd make a lot more money from it than you would the streaming service wise. And if you do it in a few years, let's say they just kind of come out of left field with it, put it out in 2021 or even 2022. Maybe that's the 2022 Star Wars film that we're all speculating on. It's not the High Republic era film. Well, then you have a possible $1 billion movie right there again, which Solo didn't do. And I know Rise of Skywalker just passed that, which is disappointing for that series of films. But there was also 5 films that came before it, and that's a whole nother discussion of its own. But this film could be another spin-off film that does really well in the box office, that costs less than the episodic films, but makes as much, if not a little bit more. And I think for a lot of fans, it would kind of be a test of their fandom in a way of, people are always saying, "Oh, I'm going to boycott this. I don't want to see this." And, I want them to make a movie about what the fans want. This is exactly what we've been demanding for 5+ years now.
Right.
So if you really are a big prequel fan, which a lot of prequel fans would be at this point, older. I mean, I'm 20 and I grew up with the prequels. A lot of people are going to be a little bit older than me who grew up with them as well, and are saying, "Hey, this is the guy who was my Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was the best part of the prequel trilogy. Let's go support him in the film, and let's go watch him in theaters." And Disney would make a lot of good money off it, in my opinion. So it would be nice if it turned into a film. I think that'd be a better outcome, and I hope that's kind of the route that they're going if they plan on canceling the series. But I don't know, man. I feel like the series, in terms of strategy for Disney, is the smarter route. I feel like that's just more safe. It's more controlled. It's more easy to market, and you don't have to worry about the risk of a box office flop. And if it flops, you see what happens with Solo. Solo flopped. It's why we haven't gotten this film, the Kenobi film. And so you got to play your cards real safe. And I feel like The Mandalorian has kind of shown that there's an interest in a streaming service based Star Wars content. If it's original content, if it's good content, it just seems like this would be the one to keep it going, if not make even more money from the streaming service. Why would you even think about getting rid of it?
I mean, you're right. I mean, if Disney's looking to, if they were disappointed with, what they've gotten out of the Skywalker trilogy, because while it made $1 billion, let's be fair, the profit margin's not like huge, what they're making on it. So if they go with the movie route, obviously they'll make way more money out of it, because if that could hit $1 billion with that $150 million budget, then obviously they're winning. You know what I mean? But I think I just feel it's better. It'd be better served as a Disney Plus series. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it'd work as a trilogy. It's too weird as a trilogy for movies, I think, just for one person like that with him. But as a 6-8 episode series where you get 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours or whatever out of it, you're getting a trilogy length thing, but it's episodic and in that kind of series fashion where it tells a story better. You know what I mean? And I think it'd be better served there, but I don't know. Maybe that's the tragedy of this, is that Disney's doing it because they're trying to make more money, which is going to be a fuck up. But
that'd be shooting yourself in the foot, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Ironically, we talked about We Got This Covered not being a credible source, and they of course have just come out with like an article about it, I think 13 minutes ago. And but they actually referenced someone else called thefandomwire.com. And I have never heard of these people, so I don't entirely trust them.
Can I actually, because it's funny, a friend of mine who's in the Gray Order Discord, Connor Heggie, he has a news site, and he actually talked about clickbait, and We Got This Covered. And there's something here that I wanted to show. Maybe it'll give people a better idea of the kind of just nonsense when it comes to them, if you don't want me sharing it.
Yeah.
1 second here. Let me pull it up. All right, so it's from Connor Heggie. He does the Star Wars Hub articles, and he's talking about the clickbait epidemic. And of course, he mentions We Got This Covered. And one of the big things why this happens is We Got This Covered. He says, like many sites, has an official Facebook page to post their articles to their followers. Nearly 200 like pages, keywords their official page. They have so far 16 others disguised as fan pages: Sherlock Fans, Marvel Hub, Marvel Universe Rocks, DC Universe. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And if you look at all the follows and likes, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I wasn't kidding when they said they monopolized it. There's an audience well into millions within a reach of several million. No wonder fans from different fan bases keep seeing this everywhere. It pretty much is. You know what I mean? So it's manipulation and monopolization of clickbait to the point that people, especially like on Facebook, everyone's going to see it and they're going to think it's real because it's just everywhere.
Yeah, and that's how they kind of They operate in a sense of the shock factor of you see the headline and they've come out with so many Ahsoka Tano series in the works. It's like, oh shit, okay, you click on it. If it never happens, well, they can't really say anything bad about it. If it happens, they're like, hey, our sources were correct. And if it doesn't, they're like, well, then they canceled a really good idea, didn't they? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess you're right, but it kind of wasn't the point. It's really easy to manipulate people now on this modern day internet and come up with fake news like that in a way and just monetize outrage. I think is a good phrase for it of, someone's going to be unhappy with this news. So why don't we break it? And if it never comes to fruition, no harm, no foul, because nothing ever happened from it. It's just hearsay.
Right.
But we'll see how this Kenobi series development goes. We'll see if it actually happens. Like I said earlier, I don't see Ewan McGregor specifically having any problems with the production side of things because he's supposed to be the executive producer. He was supposed to direct a few of the episodes. I think there's only supposed to be 6 to 8 of the episodes anyways. I mean, there's not a lot of content there anyways. It just seems like it's one of those things where it's like, it's so stupid to cancel this. It can't possibly be real. And if it is real, then my God, I'm going to be honest. I don't see Kathleen Kennedy staying around in 2021. Exactly. And I hate to, and I've always been a solid critic of her work because all the production problems has mostly been a result of her. But I do think people in Star Wars give her too much shit for saying, oh, she ruined Star Wars. She's the worst and everything. And she's the worst Lucasfilm president. And we talked about this last night where it's like, you don't even know the Lucasfilm presidents or what they do. So they don't even bring that shit up. But it is one of those things where it's like, if you really let this gold mine of not only memes, could you imagine the memes from the Kenobi show that'll kind of come out, but this gold mine of opportunity for the show and profit margin, if you let that go, you can't stay around because it's been nonstop production problems. And if this is another one, I think it would be the camel that, or the straw that broke the camel's back because.
Yeah. But that's the other question I have. I mean, it's like, we know Iger is all dollars and cents, man. He's businessman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could not, whatever reason it is, unless there's some like really super legitimate thing. Why does what happened? I cannot see him saying, yeah, this is cool. You know what I mean?
He'd be pissed and rightfully so. And Iger even said when it came to making this Disney Plus series for each company, like Marvel is doing their own, Disney has like their animated shows or movies that are coming out on there. And then Star Wars has their own, obviously Mandalorian, Clone Wars season 7, and then Cassian Andor and Mandalorian season 2, and now this Kenobi show. Bob Iger went to all these companies before Disney Plus launched and said, hey, we're going to operate at a loss here, but don't worry about that. Let us worry about that. Just make quality content for this streaming service. I would think Bob Iger would also look at Kenobi and say, this is exactly what fans would want and exactly what we want. And it's been in development, like we said, for 4 years. It's been planned for so long. He has to know about it, of course. He's one of those guys who just kind of approves it, where they come up and say, hey, we're going to do a Kenobi series. Oh, that's a good idea. How much money do you need? And, sign here. The weird thing is about the future of Star Wars is that Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy are leaving in 2021, likely. At least Iger's gone. I mean, that's not like he could resign. No, he's done. He's done his Disney tenure. He's good. He's leaving. And Kathleen Kennedy may or may not leave in 2021. It depends on how her contract goes, if they extend it, if they don't. We really don't know. That's just speculation at this point. But the big question.
Think about that, though. I think that's business Iger would want to take care of before he goes, either re-sign her or accept a resignation or whatever, retirement. I really think that's something that he'd want to take care of before he leaves. So I don't see him leaving before that's taken care of.
That's true. I mean, it feels like it would be an unresolved problem in a way if he brings in a new CEO of Disney, if they vote, the board votes on one, and that'd be another thing is like the timing of it. You get a new CEO for Disney. That's not an easy process, and they're probably right now at least thinking about, all right, we got to find someone to possibly replace Bob, and what's going to happen next with the CEO of Disney at least. And the decisions that CEO makes does involve Lucasfilm president. I mean, he doesn't have the final say on it. The board does, but I mean, he still has pretty much the majority of the say. And Kennedy was brought in from Lucas. Lucas was the guy to bring in Kennedy before Disney even bought Star Wars. So that would be the question of, well, are you going to let Bob Iger leave before they re-sign Kathleen Kennedy, or don't re-sign, or maybe he can leave with like some.
He could totally be trolling him and say, "Screw you guys, you figured this out."
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do. I would leave it ambiguous and just be like, "Hey, word to the wise: Kathleen Kennedy's contract ends in 2021." And the board's like, "Okay, well, who do you recommend? Do you think we should extend her contract, or do you think we should get someone else?" And he's just like, "Yes." Like, what was that, Bob? Should we extend her contract or get someone new? Yes, that's exactly what you should do. Bob, and he's just sailing off into the sunset.
Just
Bob,
like a cabana hat, has a suitcase. See you later.
Good luck, motherfuckers. Those Star Wars fans are a good bunch, aren't they? And just sails off. Yeah.
And I'm leaving with a legacy that I created Disney Plus, and I brought Disney to new heights. My legacy is golden. I don't care.
Yeah, his legacy's solid. He's like, I bought Pixar, I bought Marvel, I bought Star Wars, I bought 20th Century Fox. What did you do?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, the dude has a solid career, and God, I can't wait to hear more about what he has to say about Star Wars and that whole behind the scenes stuff when he leaves. But yeah, I mean, is he going to re-sign Kathleen Kennedy when her contract ends? If it ends before she leaves, let me look up when he's going to leave, because I remember I had it. I
still think she's going to announce a retirement.
I do too. She'll be 68 when he. Okay, yeah. This actually, I think you're right. I think if anyone's going to have a say in it, it's going to be him, because he's 68 years old. He's going to retire in December of 2021. Her contract was renewed. Was it December of 2018 or was it November of 2018? God, dude, that's like literally right by November. Yeah, I mean, it was close. Kathleen Kennedy contract extension. This was from the Hollywood Reporter. They reported it a few years ago. When was this? No, that's Deadline. September. Okay. It was in September of 2018 when they announced that that she got her contract extended. So you're right. If it's going to be up to anyone, it's going to be up to Bob Iger before he leaves, which is also kind of crazy, because it's one of those things where, let's say both of them retire. Let's say she steps away in September of 2018 and he steps away from Disney in December of 2021. I meant to say 2021 for Kathleen as well. But let's say both of them leave in the same time. That means not only has Kathleen Kennedy basically built the future of Star Wars for the next 5 years, because it's not like they plan out content within a year time frame. She's setting up the future films as we speak in the future shows. Bob Iger is probably going to do the same thing with him retiring in December of 2021. If he brings in someone new as Lucasfilm president before he leaves, then he's also setting up the future of Star Wars for the foreseeable at least 10 years. And he's not even going to be having a say in it in a way. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's a really touchy field on what's going to happen with these people when they step away, because it's kind of like, and I don't want to get into politics, but you know how you look at each president and it's like, well, how good is their legacy? Because how long does the bills and stuff they put into place last after they leave? And if that's what they're doing here, if Kathleen Kennedy is president of Lucasfilm, setting up films to go on in the 2022 and 2024, 2026, she sets up a trilogy. Let's say she announces the Rian Johnson trilogy before she retires, which I think is the only way it could possibly even happen at this point. Then she's having a big impact on the future of Star Wars while not even being Lucasfilm president anymore. Bob Iger could have that same result, where he steps away from Disney, but he also brings in a Lucasfilm president, kind of like Lucas did, right before he says goodbye. And that could be good and it could be bad, because let's say he leaves and says, I want Jon Favreau as president. The new CEO of Disney comes in and says, yeah, I don't like that Favreau guy. I want someone a little more diverse. Why don't we get a...
Again, I think it's going to be Favreau anyway. I think it's...
I hope so. Right hand to God, I hope so. And I feel like I'm one of the first people to call it. So for me, it's an ego thing of like, I said it first, motherfuckers, because everyone else was calling for Dave Filoni, and I was the only guy out here saying, I want Jon Favreau for president.
I said Filoni too. I said Filoni too. I said when we talked one time, I said, I thought Filoni. But my backup plan was Favreau if it wasn't Filoni. But yeah, you were one of the first people I heard saying it. But yeah, and a lot of people bring up the whole Indiana Jones 5 thing. It's like, well, that's got to come out. Like, but that's technically release date is July of 2021.
Yeah,
So I
and
mean,
I've said
that'd
for
be
a while
way,
that'd be her last film.
yeah, that'd be way wrapped up and done before she does. And to be fair, the way usually most of these things go when it comes to contracts, like, okay, we say it's September 2021. It's not like they're talking about it. August 31st. I mean, they usually
Yeah.
know 2 or 3 months of what ahead of time what's going on. Because they know the process. There's a lot of interviewing involved. There's a lot of this and that, and a lot of times they'll bring in the new person before they announce it. They'll bring in the new person like a month ahead of time to start getting up to speed before they announce everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they did that with Kathleen. They brought her in
Yeah.
really early in 2012, and she was one of the few people at Lucasfilm who even knew about the Disney purchase. And that was just George kind of, for him, solidifying his legacy in Star Wars, saying he still wants someone that he trusts to control it.
Right.
And they've done that for a lot of the Lucasfilm presidents. Michelin Chow, she was the lady who was president before Kathleen was. She was the CFO before she became Lucasfilm president. So it seems like they always kind of want to operate a little bit in-house, a little bit. And reports have said recently that Kathleen Kennedy's setting up the future of Star Wars without her, which would be people like Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and another lady, Michelle Rejwan. I'll put up a picture of her right here because I have it on the ready. She's the girl on the far left, of course, and there's Kathleen Kennedy and JJ. And Michelle Rejwan was actually the reason that JJ Abrams even came back into Star Wars Episode 9. She was a key person to bring him in, and that's because she worked on Bad Robot Productions a long time with JJ Abrams. She was a producer on Episode 7, and she was a producer on Episode 9. And so she's vice president of live action development over there at Lucasfilm. So it seems like since she's gotten 2 films underneath her belt, she's probably, I don't know how involved she is with the spin-off films or the shows that on Disney Plus. I don't think she's that involved with those. But it seems like she'll be having a lot more say and control and power in the future of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so for me, the 2 running candidates, like the top 2, is her and Jon Favreau. And that's not bad, but I think a problem with Michelle Rejwan that people are going to have is the same problem that they have with Kathleen Kennedy. And no offense to any of the gentlemen in this chat, but I'll admit a lot of you motherfuckers don't like these women simply because they're women.
This picture always makes me laugh because I always wonder, like, why does JJ look like he's Ricky Bobby not knowing what to do with his hands?
He's like, I don't know. He starts lifting them up and shit, hits Kathy in the face. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. And yeah, he looks.
They look like action figure hands.
Yeah, it looks like Kathleen's like kind of trying to hold his hand, and then Michelle's also trying to hold his hand at the same time. He's like, I have a wife and I have kids. Stop, please.
That's the Keanu Reeves hug his hands where it's like
oh yeah. Don't you love it when you see guys take pictures with women and they do like the unnecessarily obvious I'm not putting my hand on her shoulder thing, and it's like, hey bro, it's funny when Keanu does it because it's like he's a celebrity and it's just the right angle, but the point of you doing it is that we can't see it from that angle. But I digress. Yeah, Michelle Rejwan may be the future president of Lucasfilm as well. And I mean, I don't know.
I did a search for Kenobi canceled, and I'm not kidding you. The top 3 Google results right now are "We got this covered."
God damn it!
And your video, this what we're on right now.
Hey, that's good though. We're doing it. We're making it. We're living the dream. We're the popular people. I know a lot of it stemmed from Twitter.
It's so funny. Look at it. Put it up.
I've never had that before. Where you're typing something like this, and I'm the result. Look how we even got Derek. I mean, not Colin Trevorrow there, just kind of chilling and.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We made it. We are now officially popular on the internet. All 278 of you watching.
You're nicely nestled between clickbait.
Yeah. I'm trying to preface it this entire time by saying it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor. We're talking about the possible recourse from this, and I'm pretty confident the other 2 videos are like Kenobi series canceled. I have inside sources that have confirmed that.
Now people are saying we have to believe it. Star Wars Only is in between. We got this covered.
Oh fuck! Oh no! I'm gonna be put into the group of fake news now because I'm part of that. We got this covered crowd. I remember someone on Reddit once said, "I don't like Star Wars only. He's part of the fandom menace." I was like, "God damn it! What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? I'm not fandom menace.
Oh,
Fuck you all."
have you ever heard of Comic Book Hut?
I've heard of the name. I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, he's been talking about some stuff with Comicsgate and EVS and stealing Solo, which is obviously an interest to me. We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I've tried commenting on this thing a couple times, like, hey, maybe you want to come on? Let's, we'll talk about it. And he was on a live stream today, and I was saying, hey, do you want to come on? And he's like, I don't know you. I don't trust anything named councils. I'm like, okay. And then people in the chat are like, he's fandom menace. Don't listen to him. Block him. I'm like, dude, have you even listened to my stuff?
Yeah, if you say anything against new Star Wars, you're fandom menace automatically.
Yeah. Oh no, they're like, he's with Mad Max. They're all fandom menace. I'm like, you really haven't paid attention to anything anybody said, have you?
Yeah, okay. Just tune into the stream. I mean, Mad Max is almost like a troll of the fandom menace in his own right. Like, I love the guy to death, and I don't know. I have friends in the fandom menace. I'm fans with the or friends with the so-called leader, I guess you will, Jeremy. Yeah. I mean, we're cool. I like him to death. I like the people in the group. Just of course disagree with opinions. You know me. I just don't like being in a group. I don't care. I'm the OT purist, babies. I mean, we're a dying breed, man. And it's hard to even be one nowadays because I love the Mandalorian, and that's so great. But I guess because we can now segue into the films, and I think we've both kind of said everything that we could say about the Kenobi series possibly being canceled. I mean, like we said earlier, it's just a rumor. It's a possibility. I would say it is a possibility, but I wouldn't lose my shit just yet. But I will say if it does happen, Kathleen Kennedy, that would be the one where I have to say, sweetheart, you got to go. I appreciate your service. I appreciate what you've done for Star Wars and what you've tried to do. But yeah, you got to call it quits, girl. And hey, what's the old horse thing where you got a broken leg and got to put her down, got to take her out back. Yep. Well, sorry, Kat, you got to go.
Put her in the glue factory.
Yeah. So if that happens, I think we're pretty much done with Kathleen Kennedy, even though a lot of people have already been done with her. But on to another problem that Kathleen Kennedy had with Colin Trevorrow, the Star Wars Episode 9 director. He was supposed to be the original director. Have you seen anything about his script that has come out? Have you read any of it?
I did give it a read through. I mean, I didn't I know a couple people. I think Jason Ward did like a complete read through.
He's done 2 really good articles on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I gave it a quick 1-2. I mean, these things to me are they're irrelevant. You know what I mean? It's like, what does it matter? And because people don't get how the subconscious works. Okay. If you're already in the frame of mind that you're angry with Disney, if you're already in the frame of mind that you didn't like the Rise of Skywalker and you're there, and it puts you in a position that anytime Disney puts anything out, you're automatically poo-pooing it. Okay. Yeah. Also, you're now anything you see that is an alternative that they could have done, you're automatically going to say this would have been the best movie ever just because they passed on it. Okay, that's what you're gonna. And it's like I read it and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's like, is it really better than what I saw? You know, I mean, there was some stuff in there. I'm like, well, that would have been cool. That would have been cool. That looks stupid. That looks stupid. And at the end of the day, I'm like, well, if that came out instead of this and I knew nothing about this one, would I be any more or less happy? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's fair. There's definitely some parts on it that I didn't like. There's a lot to read if you just even look at the Jason Ward articles. I mean, there's so much that happens in there. And for me, when I watched it or when I read the script, and I know you know, and I'm not sure if anyone watching knows, but some of my fans do. I wasn't a fan of the Rise of Skywalker. I didn't hate it as some people do, because like you were saying, if you're going into this with an anti-Disney mentality, there are people who went into the Rise of Skywalker already hating it, right, and saying this film's going to be a disaster. It's like, well, if you hate it, if you don't like it, why are you going to see it? I was one of the few people, at least in my eyes, who was a critic of the new sequel films. Even a year ago, saying JJ's back, he has more creative control than he did for The Force Awakens. I'm more excited for this film than I am the other ones, simply because I feel like it's going to be our modern day Revenge of the Sith. But when I watched the film, I was just disappointed. And so when I read the script for Colin Trevorrow stuff, I kind of was, like you said, going into it being, Well, yes, this hopefully would be better. I didn't think it was going to be better just because it's Colin. My thing was I always like knowing the what if scenarios on what could possibly happen with this other director or writer being involved with the show or being involved with the movie. And so I was just happy to get some clarity on what he possibly could have done with Star Wars. And one of the things I liked about it in his script, and for anyone who's watching, I'll make a video tomorrow about it more in depth because there's a lot to cover. The title of his Star Wars Episode 9 film was going to be called Duel of Fates, which I'm pretty confident is a reference
right off
to
the music from the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. And I thought that was a cute, poetic kind of thing to bring things full circle. Maybe a little too on the nose for some, but I liked it. And I'll go ahead and read the supposed, I think this is the first draft of the script, the opening crawl. It says the iron grip of the First Order has spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. Traitorous pacts punishable by death. Traitorous acts are punishable by death. Determined to suffocate a growing unrest, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has silenced all communication between neighboring systems. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a path to freedom. And the basic plot of this entire movie is the transmission has been jammed and the Resistance can't communicate. Once the Friends steal a cache of weapons from the First Order, they prepare to attack the capital of the First Order. Once Rey goes to the Jedi Spire of Ossus, I believe is how you say it, and sends a message to the galaxy to get them to join the fight. Kylo is trying to kill Rey so we can finally be full on the dark side. I like this script in the sense of I like the characters more. I like the big part of this script was Finn's arc was going to be about him doing that internalization of he's a former stormtrooper. He was someone who he apparently in one of the scenes he sees a fallen stormtrooper that he knew. He had his helmet off and he was like, "Oh, that's a brother of mine that I knew from a long time ago." that was something I think was missing in Rise of Skywalker is that we didn't get a lot of character with someone like Finn. And even Poe, in a way, Poe was supposed to be a big pilot in this one. And he was actually even supposed to have some affection for Rey in Colin's script, where they had a little interest there. But Rey, was, of course, more interested in Kylo Ren or something like that. You know, girls like the bad boys who beat the shit out of them or something like that. And
that whole thing is making the rounds right now.
Yeah, I know it's a big thing, especially in the Star Wars fandom, which it's annoying, but people look at it and take it out of context, of course. But she was supposed to force trick him with the Jedi mind trick to prevent Poe from coming with her to the planet of Mortis, which I don't
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not even a planet. It's just it basically is the Force. Yeah. I don't really know how you would even find it. I know there's a part in it where she has a vision and someone draws a map to her to find it. I wasn't a fan of going to Mortis just because it's like it's a very interesting planet. It's a very great idea, but it kind of died as well at the end of that Clone Wars. And I actually just watched that arc a few weeks ago because I rewatched the entire Clone Wars show, and I love that arc and I love that idea of those godlike beings and everything. But just the fact of her and Kylo Ren going there to finish everything off. And the three gods basically aren't there. I feel like that would just kind of miss the magic of it a little bit.
You just wanted name recognition with Mortis, and without and something like Mortis, you can't just throw in at the end of a trilogy. That's like something you start with, or at least have in the middle. You know what I mean? To establish it. And like I said, it pretty much if when you kind of watch those Clone Wars episodes, it's like you don't find Mortis finds you. That's kind of how it works. And what I wasn't happy with was it's debatable with Finn and Poe. I guess that's their ship name, Foe. But it's debatable, on was there better character development in that script or not. I think that's irrelevant because they destroyed their character development in The Last Jedi anyway. So either way, but I feel that Rise of Skywalker at least better served one of the bright spots of the trilogy was Kylo Ren's arc. So I believe the movie we got, it preserved that arc and gave it a nice end, I feel. Whereas this script, he killed her parents, and it's like, if you do the math, he would have been like what, like 15, I think, or something when he killed her parents. You know?
Oh yeah, geez. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think. She's 19, he's 30 in The
yeah.
Force Awakens. And let's say like her parents abandoned her when she was 8, or no, she was probably like 6 or
Oh,
7 in that.
I mean, I was gonna say like 4 or 5, but yeah, it could have been like 6.
Probably, yeah, probably like at minimum he would have to be a teenager,
Yeah,
and that would be really weird because the fall of the Jedi Temple thing, at least if we're following the new comic book that came out in The Last Jedi. I mean, he was like a teenager when that all happened and went down. So yeah, that wouldn't have worked out. But I like the idea that he kills her parents. I don't like the idea that it's Kylo Ren who kills it, because I think that's kind of like too coincidental or something like that. Of like, why'd you kill the parents but not her or something? Or she got away, I guess, is the arc. I like the idea that Snoke told him to kill her parents, or that Snoke had some involvement with that. Yeah, and I like Colin's script on not having Rey be related to anybody. There's some really bad lines in the script though that I will admit. I'll see if I can read a few of them out here that they were talking about. So Rey tells Kylo Ren, "Our masters were wrong. I will not deny my anger. I will not reject my love. I am the darkness and I am the light." I would have thrown up in the theater right there. And then Kylo Ren says, "You're nothing. You're no one." And this one, I probably would have flipped my popcorn and walked out. Rey says, "No one is no one."
What?
Wow, what the fuck does that even mean?
Does that
No
mean?
shit. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Everyone's someone. I mean, everyone knows somebody. I mean, no one. Yeah, no one is no.
Wait, nobody. What the fuck is your problem?
Yeah. And that's where I get some of the problems with the script, is that I see people who say this script is a lot better than The Rise of Skywalker. There's some story outlines that I enjoy. I like the idea of Luke haunting Kylo Ren going to like the Jedi temples and searching for Sith artifacts. Of course, he runs into I believe one of them is where he runs into Palpatine's hologron, and that's where Palpatine comes back in the film, which is always a nice little touch. And Palpatine basically says to Vader, if Luke kills me or if I die, go to this guy. He's the guy who taught me. He's the Sith Lord who taught me, or something like that, which would kind of decanonize Plagueis. But hey, I'm up for anything at this point, because fuck it, why not?
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
I
had a little idea when I was talking to John. I mean, this has been me. I think that what would really been neat. I think people would love this. Is like if you had Luke, like if they showed dual Force ghosts doing two different things. Okay, where you had Luke with Rey trying to keep her focused on what he needs to do, and the kind of like what he did in Rise of Skywalker, and then you have Anakin's Force ghost with Kylo saying, "Dude, don't do what I did. You like worship me, and I fucked up, so don't do that." You know what I mean? I think it would have been better served if they did that. If they had Hayden's Anakin Force Ghost talking to Kylo, Luke's Force Ghost talking to Rey, and then that would have been a nice little deal to have in a movie. I think that would have worked out too. But
it would have tied in more with the prequel trilogy as well, having Hayden reprise his role as Anakin, and it would just make more sense, because if Kylo Ren's idolizing him so much, the question would be, let's say Palpatine doesn't return, because he didn't return in Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9 script, then it would be, well, when did Vader show Kylo Ren the darkness and everything that he was talking about in The Force Awakens? There's a lot of questions that we have that I felt like would have been a little better answered in the Episode 9 for Colin Trevorrow's script, but there's confusion to be had there. And there's one part of it where Kylo Ren kills Rey in this script, and this part annoys me. I like the idea, because I've always wanted this to be explored a little bit more, of the mythology of this Force and everything, where Kylo dies, but Rey is alive, but she's just barely alive. And this is after like Kylo like fucks her up or something like that, but he like revives her or something. I can't remember. But she ascends to a higher plane of existence, apparently. And she encounters the Force ghost of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke. Not Anakin, which makes no sense to me, but Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke. And Yoda says, "Taught us much you have." I'd kill everybody there. That pisses me off right there. What did she teach you, Yoda? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. And then it says that Rey is confused, and Yoda says, "Succeed where we have failed, narrow our point of view was." And he says, "You choose to embrace the dark and the light to find balance within," and that's what Luke says. And and coexist they must, is what Yoda says, "as such a feeling do in all of us." it's stuff like this where it's like it's cool in concept seeing the old boys come back, probably Ewan coming back as a Obi-Wan Kenobi Force Ghost, and you got Yoda there and you got Luke and they're talking to Rey. That's awesome, cool, fan service. I remember too. But then you have the idea of for this is where I get irked with the character of Rey, or just in general, of it being like, oh, you've taught us a lot. It's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to teach her. And I get you learn from your students as well. I've taught karate for years. I get that whole fucking mentality thing. But to the point of this girl literally is teaching us everything that we were doing wrong. It goes back to what we were saying the other day of, when can the Jedi just be good? It just goes back on the Jedi are shit. You have to find a balance between light and dark. And for me, I find that annoying because it's like you're supposed to reject the darkness inside of you. That's where the morality kind of comes in, where Luke defied the darkness in Episode 6. Was he wrong now? Is he wrong to defy the darkness and not have the evil overcome him? He did let it happen when he destroyed Vader, but then he realized he's like, I'm not going to strike him down, and I know I can't beat you, Emperor. So you're going to have to kill me because I'm not going to kill you. We're going to die here on the Death Star because it's going to explode in a little bit. It's a selfless sacrifice of no darkness. But
right.
in this one, it's like, nope, you got to be both. If you want to be good, you got to be both. And it's a good script in terms of characters for me, like Finn and Poe, and interesting story arcs, more interesting in my opinion than Palpatine coming back, going to Mortis, and just in general having her talk to these ghosts and everything. Some of that stuff's interesting, but goddamn, some of it's also just awful. I mean, the dialogue right there alone, I'm pretty confident is a first draft only thing. And I could definitely see why, if I was someone like Kathleen Kennedy reading the script going, hey, Colin, cool idea, but bro, what the fuck is going on here? What are you saying?
And to be honest with you, it feels even more, I mean, people criticize the Rise of Skywalker for being so rushed, which it was. But this feels even more disjointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's confusing.
To me, if that one came out, we would not have a trilogy. We would have had 3 separate movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because at least Rise of Skywalker feels like a sequel to The Force Awakens, even if it kind of says no to anything The Last Jedi does. This would feel like, it wouldn't even feel like a sequel to anything. It literally would feel like its own episode of a Clone Wars show of adventures that we could have seen or something. It's just, it's weird. There's one part from Jason Ward's article where it says that Kylo trains under a Sith creature that, oh god, it says it kind of looks like a dark side Yoda, which, yeah, fuck me. And it's on a Mercury planet. He enters a force cave where he fights Darth Vader and loses his deepest fear. When he fully masters the new force ability, he kills a Sith creature with his power, drawing life from him. Kylo seems irredeemable at this point. I like the idea of him training with a Sith creature, learning more about that kind of stuff and seeing his training become complete for the Sith. But then he fights Darth Vader in a cave and loses. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Another cave, but it's, do I really need to see Darth Vader back on screen again?
I mean, wasn't the big complaint that The Force Awakens was just a rehash of New Hope? Was this supposed to be a rehash of Empire Strikes Back, which is actually...
Yeah. Empire and Return of the Jedi in a way. I mean, yeah, that's a big thing, man, is that these new films, Rich Evans from Red Letter Media, love him to death. He always says Star Wars creatively bankrupt. And when you watch some of the new sequel films, you kind of think that, where it's like, there's so many possibilities you guys could have gone with a story. Why does it feel like we just did what the original trilogy did, but a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, The Rise of Skywalker ends it in the exact same way, where you're looking out on the planets and each one's celebrating the fall of the First Order, and everyone's happy and cheery at the end and dancing. It's like, I remember we did this 30 years ago. Let's do it again. And God, it's kind of just funny to think that this all could have happened again. And what's weird about this film is that the deaths would have been different. Instead of C-3PO having a big arc like he did in Rise of Skywalker, which, by the way, on another note, I am 110% confident that is just Anthony Daniels having some say in the story and being like, I have been in this film for 42 years. I would like an arc. And George Lucas always,
and it will help me sell my book.
Yeah. I forgot about the book too. I am 3PO. That was a big part of him in episode 9 of him wanting to do it. In this one, in Colin's version, R2-D2 dies. He gets destroyed, and they take his memory and put it into BB-8 to do some shit with a shield or hyperdrive and everything. oh my god, are you killing R2? Good fucking luck.
Yeah, that people would have rioted in the streets for that one.
Yeah. Even people who don't like Star Wars be like,
Yeah.
excuse me. I mean, R2's a culture phenomenon for a Star Wars
They
fan.
killed that little robot thing? No.
Yeah. You killed my favorite droid. I mean, BB-8's cute, but it would be really it would reinforce the idea of Disney killing the past and forgetting it, or whatever that line is,
Right.
of, they're killing off R2D2 now just because, it's going to make you emotional because, hey, it's R2D2. And so there's parts of the script I like, there's parts I don't, of course. And I think the great thing about it is that we can now look at it and say, well, now we know what could have been. It would have been a lot different in execution, of course, because things change in production. But it's nice. For me, this is closure. This is closure that I don't think I would have had for a lot of other situations in the Star Wars. There's a lot of things that could have happened with the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, if Ron Howard had directed it, or Steven Spielberg, or Robert come in and direct it. I mean, there's so many possibilities. But now with this, it's like, well, why did Colin Trevorrow get the boot? What was his story going to be like? Now we know. Now we know it would have been a lot different, for some good and for some bad. There's one part right here I want to kind of cover. In it says in the confrontation on Mortis, Rey is blinded and left to die on the steps of the temple. Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost appears to confront Kylo, and Luke intones the words spoken by Obi-Wan. The Force binds the galaxy together. Rey is given strength by all her friends in the Battle of Coruscant, and they all connect through the Force. She rises and fights Kylo blindfolded, trusting her instincts. It's stuff like that I feel like tries to explore the religious aspect of Star Wars more than more than.
I mean, I didn't see anything there about any kind of redemption for him, though. There wasn't anything about any kind of.
No,
redemption.
he does not get redeemed in this script. He
Right.
fucking dies. I mean, he's gone.
And that's the thing I don't like. It's like, I mean, not because it's saying, oh, I like the character, he should have been redeemed. It's because that's what they've been literally setting up. Is that he's a redeemable character. That's the whole point of it. You know what I mean? Like, to be fair, even though Darth Vader was redeemed, that's not what they were setting up in Empire and in Star Wars. Okay, in Episode 4, they didn't set that up, and it was just a nice surprise. Oh, look, he's good. There's still good in him. Luke was right. But his whole arc was a redemption arc through the first two movies. You could tell that's what the point was. So for him just to double down, now he's a super maniacal dictator, and he's just shutting off free speech and killing her parents, and then he dies.
Yeah, man. It goes. It's like a swing set. It goes one way, it goes back to the other, and then this one just fucking does a big loop around and says, "Nope, you're wrong." Yep. I don't. I like
subverting the subverted expectations.
Yeah. Oh God damn that Ryan Johnson. That's I feel like fans, Raylos. Oh God, we all know they'd be pissed if he didn't get redeemed.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of the robberies, of my opinion, of the entire sequel trilogy is Ben Solo. Ben Solo appears in the Rise of Skywalker when Kylo Ren throws his lightsaber off. He changes characters per se.
Right.
I liked Ben Solo in the film. I thought he was a little more energetic, and I liked the arc of Ben Solo in a way. I didn't like how he turned to the dark side and Luke turning on him and everything, but that's a problem I have with Luke's character, not with the character of Ben Solo.
Yeah.
But Kylo Ren was the most interesting character out of this entire trilogy. It does feel like a robbery just to kill him off. I always said when I found out that Palpatine was coming back, I would love it if Kylo Ren killed Rey in Episode 9, which we know that they wouldn't have let happen because they have no balls. But I would have loved it if he killed her and then realized he's so far into the dark and it's not what he wanted, that he actually realizes, I got to kill Palpatine. I got to get rid of this dark side stuff, and kind of goes into a self-imposed exile. He brings back the Jedi Order himself, or the Skywalker Order, if you will, to honor his father or something. He does that, and it kind of goes off into his own exile, and he doesn't get redeemed in the eyes of the galaxy. But the Force ghosts like Luke and Leia and Rey, they all kind of look at him and say, appreciate what you did for turning back to the light. I thought that'd be a more interesting arc of his character, because I think he should have been the main character of the trilogy. I don't think it should have been Rey, because I don't know, man. For me, it's one of those things where I don't like saying she's a Mary Sue, But good God, she can do anything and everything, and she can beat
Yeah.
anybody and everybody. She's a Palpatine. That's why she's so powerful. And at the end, she's a Skywalker. Not a walker, by the way, a Walker. And
Waka.
Waka Flocka, baby. And
Skywalker.
yeah, she's a Skywalker at the end of it all. And for me, it's like you didn't really have an arc, Ray. Your arc was, who am I? You're no one. Okay. No, you're actually a Palpatine. Oh, no, I'm a Skywalker. We did it. We made Star Wars. Ben Solo's was more interesting. I want to be more powerful. I'm hearing this call to destiny from my grandfather who wants me to be a dark side user. I'm going to finish what he started. I have all these expectations of me. I'm the son of this great legend, Han Solo, that I could not care less about. I killed my father, but I really still feel this connection to my mother. I mean, that's another thing that they're kind of missing out on, I guess, in this script of, Kylo Ren's a mommy's boy, and that's fine with me, but the connection between a son and a mother is something that we haven't really explored much in the Star Wars world. And so I think that that would have been more touching in a way, in having that explored a little more than they didn't. And I know Carrie Fisher died, so it's kind of hard to execute, but I just would have appreciated it more if, he lived in this version of the script as well, but was redeemed in a more, I don't know, well-suited fashion than what we got in the Rise of Skywalker. A mix between the two would have been nice, I guess, because the Rise of Skywalker didn't do his character justice. The entire sequel trilogy didn't do his character justice. I think The Force Awakens was an all right start for him. The Last Jedi, despite all its flaws, really did well with the character of Kylo Ren, and the Rise of Skywalker just kind of gave it the more predictable outcome, but wasn't overly satisfying for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I don't know. I at the end of the day, it's just like I said, it's just I wouldn't have been any more happier with this than what we got. You know what I mean? And I'm glad we got what we got. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah. I mean, for me to be happier, I mean, like, see, let's say if there's, if we had Anakin or Hayden in there, oh, that would have made me a little bit happier. Okay. Mm-hmm. But for me to be like completely happy, we'd have to scrap all three and just start over again. And that's not going to happen. So, just be happy with what I got. That's
for me to be happy. The opening crawl they'd have to change the title as like the opening crawl goes, and it would say Star Wars Episode 9, and it would say the title of the film would be From That Nightmare, because then the whole thing would be The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, From That Nightmare, and then the script would basically start with Luke waking up and going, "Oh my God, hey Ben," and Ben's over there on the other bunk or something. And, "Yes, Master." He's like, "I had a horrible dream. You're not going to believe this. Basically, everything that happened when I was a teenager happened again. And you go to the dark side, and you're talking to your grandfather's mask, and Palpatine returns or something, and I'm sucking on some green tits or something." It was not a good dream. And Ben's like, "Oh, Master, you and those death sticks," and we just kind of start our own little trilogy right there. It ends with Episode 9, but then we start episodes 10, 11, and 12 because we would need to go somewhere else. I truly do wish in the end of it all, the sequel trilogy just didn't happen. And not that I hate it to death, but at the end of it, I just felt like it was pointless. After watching it, I was like, well, I still don't care. And a lot of other people don't. It would have been divided anyways. I'll say it, and I'll say it again. I hate to go into this segue of a topic of, I wish Lucas would have made the sequels. I probably would have hated them as much as I hate the prequels, but God damn it. I mean, look at the man. It would have been George Lucas. Lucas Yoda, baby. He's fucking beautiful.
Creator I am.
Pay me money, you will. Fucking owe me a lot.
You will. Even if you you will pay money.
Yeah. Hey, I did that with the prequels, man. I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith like 5-6 different times in theaters just because it was the ending of it all. I was a very young kid. I loved the film. I remember leaving the theater crying after I think my second viewing. I don't even know why. Well, I know why I was crying. I don't know why it got to me, because now I look at it, I'm like, it's okay. But I remember leaving the theater for Revenge of the Sith. My mom's like, what's wrong? I'm like, he was his brother. He could have destroyed not joined them. And she's like, okay, it's okay, Star Wars only. And I'm like, he was the chosen one. Like, it really cut deep at the time. And then I grew up and I was like, oh, the film's not that good. But I mean, I still like it. I just think that in hindsight, Lucas would have made the sequel trilogy a lot different than the ones we got. He would have innovated, or he would have tried to innovate something with the new films. And I also think the story would have been vastly different. We talk about Mortis. He would have gone into the microbiotic universe. The midichlorians would have been explored a little bit more. I think it would have been touching to have him finish it. And he also would have brought in Michael Arden. He was supposed to write episode 7, and he was working on the Lucas scripts. And then Lucas sold Disney, or that'd be funny. He sold Star Wars to Disney, and everything changed. So another what could have been, honestly. Maybe instead of the Colin Trevorrow script, we can get a Lucas script instead one day and see what he would have said about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Got to miss the man.
He's just sitting in Skywalker Ranch saying, fuck, I don't have to deal with this no more.
Yeah, he's over there in Los Angeles right now, making his museum, making money, and laughing at the disaster people would call the sequel trilogy films. And now I guess this could be our last topic. Anybody watching, we'll probably wrap up the stream in about 15 minutes because it's been a good hour, but we always like to wrap it up around this time. But yeah, I think Lucas would have enjoyed making the sequel trilogy in a different way. I think he serves better as a producing role. And geez. Yeah, like I said, man, what could have been, and even Pablo Hidalgo, and I know he deleted his Twitter account, which sucks because I actually asked him questions and he would reply to them because I would ask him in a interview style question of like, I know you can't say everything, but just give us a hint. He actually read the Lucas story treatments, and I was like, oh, what was it like? No spoilers, please, but what were those script treatments were like? And he was like, I was surprised that they're what's the word, brevity or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's not much, but I'll take it. And so they're out there. They're out there for sure. They're in the vaults of Disney. Maybe we can do what they did in that movie Fanboys, where we can get a bunch of Star Wars fans and we can go infiltrate the Lucasfilm or the Disney headquarters and get the George Lucas story treatments that never were. Actually, fuck it. Let me message Doomcock. I'm pretty confident his source has got the scoop on that or something, and probably has all the information I need for it.
He has all those inside sources. You know.
Yeah.
All the guys emptying the garbage cans at the toilets at Disney Studios.
Yeah. Could you imagine some dumbass in like 2012 at Disney like cleaning out the garbage or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Iger, is your trash can ready to be taken out?" He's like, "Oh yeah, go ahead and take it, Jim. Appreciate it." And he like ties the knot, and he sees at the top Star Wars 7 through 9 written and directed by George Lucas. He's like, "What the fuck? Good God!" You know, like just the idea that Iger not only threw him away, but didn't even have the goddamn courtesy to burn the bitch or anything.
Shred him.
Yeah, because I think first of all, I don't know how Pablo Hidalgo got a hold of. Oh, okay, actually, I do. A quick rundown of who all knows about the story treatments for Lucas. There's Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Michael Arden, and Kathleen Kennedy and Michael Arden know it because they were supposed to be working on the George Lucas story outlines for 7, 8, 9 if Disney did not buy Star Wars. Then you have the people at Disney who know about it. I believe it's Alan Horn, Bob Iger, and another Alan named Alan Beverman. I don't know what he does over there at Disney, but he's a big wig as well. Those three guys got the scripts for episodes 7 through 9 from George Lucas, and they all agreed, yeah, this was nice, but it's not the route we're going to go. So I don't know how different. I mean, I know it'd be very different if Disney didn't produce the films and make them, and it was Lucas still. But I really wonder just what the scripts would have been about and everything. We get a few tidbits and hints there, but really only about episode 7. We don't know much about what episode 8 and 9 would be like. And so maybe one day, Pablo Hidalgo is another guy who knows, of course. So there's about 6 people who know. Maybe one day
Pablo was hired by Disney, right? He wasn't Lucasfilm.
No, he was Lucasfilm before that. He was
Lucasfilm before.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who he worked on the prequels as a documentary kind of guy where he films stuff. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what he did on the prequels, but he was on set for the prequels a lot. He worked on those things daily, and he's kind of the he's part of the Lucasfilm story group.
how can people like bitch at him like he knows nothing about Star Wars? That's what I don't understand.
Because if there's one thing Star Wars fans won't ever admit, it's that someone else knows more about Star Wars than they
Yeah,
do, and so that's where people get a problem with him of that they don't agree with. Basically, I remember seeing one tweet coming at him for the movies or something like that, and he's like, "I hope you know I didn't make the movies," and they kind of pulled the Karen thing, the white mom, where they're like, "Well, I'd like to know who I take my complaints to."
yeah.
And tell me who the manager of you is so I can get mad at them. And Paulo's like, bro, that's an entire fucking corporation. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think's
Well, he
happening here?
started getting. I know he started getting the heat because he was in charge of the story group when they decided what was
Yeah,
canon, what wasn't. So that's when he started getting the heat because they consider him the man who made the EU not canon. So there, that's when they come after him.
yeah,
And he's
which is
like,
crazy because he's written a book about the
yeah,
expanded universe, and he's written multiple, and one of them is like the like entire encyclopedia and like the guide to the expanded universe for Star Wars fans. And what's funny as fuck, because I remember buying this when Disney didn't even own Star Wars yet, and in the first few pages, because I still got the bitch right over there, it says that this is not the official canon of the Star Wars universe. But no, they know more than Pablo, a
yep,
guy who literally worked with George Lucas himself, Dave Filoni, and he's kind of like the story keeper now. Even Chris Terrio said that he was calling Pablo on speed dial all the time, saying, "Hey, does this story idea make sense for Episode 9? What works, what doesn't?" Because he has such a vast knowledge of the expanded universe and the Star Wars canon universe. So yeah, he's a very knowledgeable guy, even on the behind the
yeah,
scenes stuff. Not just Star Wars lore, but Star Wars production and how everything works.
right.
So
I have like upstairs in my bookshelf. I have a Star Wars encyclopedia. I think it was from 1994.
oh
Um,
boy,
yeah, I bought that brand new in '94.
god damn man, yeah, that's older than me.
Yeah, and so that was obviously before the prequels. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah,
and that's when books were starting to come out and stuff. And that encyclopedia is the first place I ever read the title Lord of the Sith, and that's when I'm like, whoa, what is this?
mm-hmm.
I'm like, because
Yep.
at the time, it's like all we really had was the original trilogy, and I think some books were just starting to come. Well, I don't even think the first book was '97, wasn't it? I think the first EU book was like in '97.
Heritage of the Empire, I believe, was like the first like legit one to start going. I don't know, the history of the expanded universes escaped me because there's so much to it. The first real expanded universe was that Splinter of the Mind's Eye
Yeah,
that came out like right after the movie. Um, but I'm pretty confident you're right. The late '90s, I think, is when the books really started to kick off. And even with that title you were talking about, the Lord of the Sith, they never mentioned the Sith in the original trilogy.
no,
The only time it was mentioned was in those kind of encyclopedia books, and the toys sometimes would mention Darth
right.
Vader as Lord of the Sith. But yeah, it was never mentioned in the film. So it's stuff like that that slowly built the lore of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's like I said. That's where I first read it. So '94. That's when my son was born. Oh yeah, he was. That's when he was born. So I was 18.
Damn.
I know 20. I just turned 20 in '94. I just turned 20. But yeah, and I read that, and I'm like, it was blowing my mind. I'm like, what is this? They didn't say that in the movies. I'm like, I want to find out more. I want to find out more. And then like when I first heard about the prequels coming out, I was literally sitting there with my ex-wife at my time, and holding this encyclopedia. I go, so listen, this is what we're gonna see. Okay, because so he's a Dark Lord of Sith, so we're gonna find out about the Sith. All right. I'm pretty sure we're gonna find out about Palpatine. I'm pretty sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got it right too.
Thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's one thing about that went into the prequels is that like no one really expected what to happen other than they knew you'd see Obi-Wan again, you'd see a young Anakin Skywalker, but those books kind of helped fill the gaps for a good while, and it's sad to see him go in a way, but man, it's
You
kind
know what
of
though? But like people say, and there's kind of resurgence now. It just because they're not canon, which again, it's my argument coming up this Sunday for my stream, is were they ever really canon? Even though they're not considered official canon now by Disney, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy them. Doesn't mean you can't read them, revisit them, and enjoy those tales. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah,
They're
they're still
still
there. You can
there.
still go read them.
Right.
You
It's
can
not
still
like
enjoy it.
Disney. Yeah, Disney didn't pull a Hitler and say like burn all the books. I mean, it's not what they did. I mean, they're still there. They're still printing them. So
They
I
didn't
mean,
pull a George Lucas and never let anyone see the holiday special
right here
outside
you
of
go.
the bootleg versions. So if we really want to
Fuck
point
that
the
cartoon.
finger,
I don't want no one seeing that shit.
yeah. he said if I could find a hammer in time, I would break every copy. And honestly, if I ever got to interview George Lucas, I feel like that would be like a little skit I'd want to do where I actually buy as many bootleg copies of the holiday special as I could. Let's say we get like 200 and we get George and a bat and a hammer and put him in a room and say, go crazy. I think everybody would love it because I feel like he'd start saying shit. He's like, oh, I remember this. And yeah, he starts beating the shit out of it or something. Yeah. And George has a lot of
Heir to the Empire was, and I have the first printing of that too. I'm surprised it was 91. Heir to the Empire came out in 91.
Jesus, 91.
Yeah. So that the encyclopedia I have was literally after the first couple books because I think Thrawn was in that encyclopedia. So it was like the first couple books, Zahn's books and stuff and stuff that's in it. I mean, I think I'm going to do a stream with that encyclopedia. I'm going to pull it out and go through it.
Yeah, man. Using those kind of sources help out a lot, especially if you're ever debating anybody, because no one actually likes to use the reference to the stuff. It's all just kind of, well, I read this book and it said this. It's like, yeah, what page? And they're like, what? what page? I have the book right here. What page was that on? Oh, I don't really remember. No, okay. Well, I'm actually at page 25 where it says the opposite of that.
What I would love to do, it would literally be just for a parody and fun. Is just stand outside of Lucasfilm Studios reading that book on a soapbox like like the world is coming to an end or one of those Bible thumpers out. It's the Star Wars Encyclopedia of 1994. Yes.
You could do some preachy stuff and get a bunch of the fandom menace people who don't like the new Star Wars films kind of like on their knees praising you, and you're like, and the year was 2012, where our Lord and Savior said that he would be selling his only child to the corporate overlords of Disney. Long may he reign, and everybody, long may he reign, and it's kind of praising Lucas and whatnot. I mean, we can start a little cult of a religion of Lucas fanatics, of fans who think they know Lucas, but they don't know a goddamn thing about the man. And the year was 1977 of our Lord, and Father and Savior said that it's just a movie. Little did he know it became a franchise. Long live the king. The king. Oh, yeah.
I can officially say the encyclopedia does not mention midichlorians. Midichlorians do not exist.
Okay. Yeah, someone brings up, what about the prequels? We do not mention those blasphemies in the presence of our Lord and Savior.
That's the New Testament. That's where Jesus comes back and go, oh, forget about what a dick God was in the first Old Testament. He's actually a nice guy.
Comes back. Are you guys still listening to that old shit? Didn't you know I rewrote the Old Testament and I'm coming out with a new one? Oh boy. So what would the sequels be? Would the sequels be the Book of Mormon, where someone just kind of comes up with shit, and you see the South Park episode where like they're telling the story, it's like dumb 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 in the background the entire time. And that's like Disney came and bought Star Wars. Dumb 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 dumb.
That's gonna be. You know how the Mormons found the discs? What Joseph Smith, whatever, found a disc supposedly like buried in the earth or whatever.
Yeah, at a random spot that no one else could find.
That's gonna be the next trilogy. They find the sabers buried on Tatooine. Behold!
Oh God, yeah. So some scavenger on Tatooine's they're gonna step wrong and their foot's gonna fall in a hole. Like, what the fuck was that? And is that a lightsaber? Chop off my foot. Oh man. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. This was definitely a good stream. We've gone a good hour and close to 20 minutes. It was a good talk for anyone who's kind of late into this and everything. We talked about the Kenobi series possibly being canceled. It's not 100% sure happening. It's just the rumor of the day going around. There hasn't been any updates as of the stream happening. And then we, of course, talked about the Colin Trevorrow script and what happened and what didn't happen with his script and possibly could have happened in Star Wars Episode 9. And just, of course, all things Star Wars. So if you guys haven't checked out my buddy Darth Daddy Lunga on his channel, The Great Council, you definitely should. He does streams like this. He's doing one tomorrow, I believe around the same time as the one we're doing now, right?
Sunday. Sunday.
Oh, yeah, it's Friday.
Yeah, Sunday, 3 p.m. Central. I'm doing an open stream. Pretty much anyone that wants to come on and talk, as long as they're rational and reasonable. I'm gonna have a roundtable and let people come on, fans, to talk about should the EU or ever been considered canon. That's the topic we want to discuss. So it'll be Sunday, 3 p.m. Central on my channel. You can just search the Great Council on YouTube.
Awesome. I'll probably listen in. I don't know if I'll be able to join just because of as you
The
know about
move.
my job. I'm moving out. I'll be driving a long drive at that point. But if I can find a place to chill for about an hour or two and just connect to a Wi-Fi and listen in or
Yeah.
join in on
And,
the
you know,
phone or
and
something, I'll
the way
try.
I'm doing it too, I'm rotating people out. So like, even if you do find a time, even if you only want to just come in just for 10, 15 minutes to talk, you can, and head on your way too. Because hopefully if there's enough people, hopefully I'll just be rotating people in and out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah, no, this sounds fun. I always like the expanded universe topics. Those are always one of the more fun and hotly debated ones. So thank you, Lunga, for joining in. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We had a pretty good viewership. I think we peaked at close to 300, if not like 290 or something like that.
nice.
So thanks, everybody, for tuning in and enjoying the stream. This is one of our best ones yet. My last one for a good while, my friends, because I am heading out for a new job that I can't talk about because I like being mysterious and cool like that, And so
I know what it
it'll
is.
be yes. Lunga's one of the few who know, and maybe a few guys on Instagram do. But other than that, no, it's a nice, good secret, baby. So yeah, thank you guys for joining in. I hope to do some streams like this in the future with Lunga and people like Mad Max because they are my favorite people, at least in the fandom at the moment. So thanks everybody for joining in. I'm Star Wars Only with Darth Daddy Lunga. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.